Well, welcome to another installment here at the Shine Up shop at Sam's Antique Motors. Today we're in the wood shop and we're working on making the bed wood for the 72 Chevy Highlander. I got all the dimensions from GMC Paul's website, which seem to be very accurate on thicknesses and sizes. So the first thing I did is last week I went over to Brazos Valley Lumber in Austin, and I bought enough wood to make all the bed. Now we picked through, with the help of Clyde, pretty much about a half a bundle of 4/4, which is 1 inch thick. In the lumber business, 1 inch board is called 4/4. S2S, which means it was surfaced two sides, lumber in random widths and random lengths. In doing so, it reduced the cost on that red oak to about $2.60 a foot, as opposed to about $4.90 a foot to buy it what they call S4S, which is surfaced on four sides. So I got random lengths, got some random widths, all of which is at least 10 feet or better. A couple boards are 12 feet. And that was enough to get everything made on the board, the requirements. So the first thing I did is I brought it back over here to the shop, and I took and I got on the joiner and I jointed one edge to get a good straight edge on one side of the board. Then I ran it through the table saw. I got it to within about 1/4 inch of the actual width. Then I put it on the planer and I planed the bottom side with one pass, and then I flipped the boards over, and with the bark up, I planed all the boards with the top side. Took about 3 or 4 passes, and I eventually got that to the 3/4 inch thickness that I was after. So to get it right, you really got to buy a 4/4 stock and then plane it down, which kind of brings to the point that if you're going to make this bedwood yourself, you kind of got to have some tools to do it. This is not really just your easy shop. At a minimum, you need a joiner to joint the edge. You need a planer to plane the flat sides of the boards. You need a good solid table saw. You also need a set of dado heads, which is what I'm about to use here to cut the grooves for the bed strips to roll in. And a handful of other measuring and so forth devices. So you could probably cut these grooves with a router. It's going to take a special bit, and I was a little questioning whether or not we could get a router that would be even all the way down and really straight. So I've got a set of dado blades here, which cut wider than saw blade width, and I've got that set to the right height. So we now have all the boards planed and cut with, they're a little longer than they need to be, but they've got all four sides cut, they're straight. I picked all the grain to make sure that I like the grain, there's no knots in it. I laid all the boards out on the table saw, outfeed bed, and picked them, and then I labeled them with the side up. On a board like this, same as a deck board at a house, you want the bark side up. So if you look at the end of the board and it's got grain, it's either going to be grain going, from the dead center of the tree, or if it's cut from the sides of the tree, it'll have an arch. So you want that arch up, and that's the bark side up, which when the wood swells and dries, it'll crown in the middle, so the water will run off and run through those grooves. If you put the bark side down, it'll eventually bow up, and then you'll pool water in it, and it'll rot the boards faster. So do the same thing on a house deck, or really anything that's going to be exposed to the weather. So at this point, we've got all this ready to go, and I'm going to set up these dado blades and rip the grooves in the boards so that we can get them set up to cut the length, and then we'll work on finishing them. Well, best intentions laid bare. I set the camera on slow-mo instead of time-lapse, and it didn't really do very well. So I got all these ripped up. I used the dado head, and you can see on the end of this, maybe, there's a little groove right there. And this groove is designed so when these two boards sit together, Then there's a little strip right here that runs down this edge. And what I was trying to do is very carefully set this where this bed strip is just slightly higher than the wood. So if you slide something over here, it doesn't scratch the bed, but stays on top of these little stainless rails. So I think I got all that handled. A couple of things to note: the outside boards on the fender wells just have groove on one side, not on both sides. And these dado heads that I'm using are a special set of blades that you can stack up to cut a wider swath. Took me about 2 hours to plane all these and get them to S4S, and then it's taken about another hour to cut all these dado heads and strips in here. So all in, I still got to cut them to length and mortise some circles for the bolt mounting, but all in, it probably takes about 4 hours if you relatively know what you're doing in order to make this make these pieces of wood. And I bought the wood for, I think it was about $250 all in. Of course, I had to go to Austin to get it. So depending on how much you value your labor, I think these bed kits cost somewhere between $600 and $1,000, depending on wood and where you get them. So depending on your labor, you may can save your money, or as my normal corollary, why buy it when you can do it yourself for 2 or 3 times the price?
Download the Resto-Rat app today to begin managing, tracking, and documenting your restoration project.